because it's very noise. It's also very noisy in Brazil. All the parties are very, actually, every day you are inside of places, a lot of noise, a lot of people.
Do you have Luis, if anything?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's start. Let me just close this. Hi. Good morning. Okay, so before I forget, and maybe if I remember, I'll say at the end, maybe we have more people here. Please.
You don't see, but we have.
We have a lot, yeah. But for the incarnated, although the discarnated can join us as well if they want to. Save the date. Yeah. August 10th will be our barbecue. So this year will be, I think it's a different place that we've never been. It's like an acreage. It's a private place that one of our members were able to rent for us. And there's a lake. It's a beautiful. It's called the Shrine Place. I've never heard of it, but it's kind of a fellowship.
Of the Shriners?
The Shriners, yeah.
Like in Boness?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Oh, okay. I know.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
that's
I've
lovely.
never been there. Bonus is beautiful. So we'll be there August 10th, and we'll send more information for you guys as well. And also, August 28th. That's the last Wednesday. We'll have our friend Alidio here from Spiritist. They will be doing a seminar in Edmonton, but he will be stopping by here in Calgary on Wednesday the 28th. Yeah. 28th, yeah, the last.
I'm gonna make anything here?
Yeah, it will be here. It will be a special meeting on Wednesday night. Yeah, so usually we start 7:15 or between 7 and 7:30. Then we have some things to eat, just to get together, and then we'll deciding on the topic that we'll ask him to talk about.
Fantastic.
Perfect. So to start, I would like to use text 138 from the Living Spring. And the title is The Right Remedy. No, now we do not need to write to you concerning fraternal charity. For yourselves have been taught by God that you are to love one another. It's Paul, the first letter to Thessalonians, chapter 5, item 9. In its mission as consoler, Spiritism receives hundreds of thousands of requests from anxious souls who beg for help in solving various problems. Here, a father who lacks understanding and who uses cruel means to educate his children. There, a rebellious and ungrateful son who flees the beauty of comprehension. Over there, someone who is fascinated by the appearances of the world and who abandons his commitments to a higher ideal. Yonder, a brother who refuses to offer fraternal help. In another place, a wife who deserts her home. Somewhere else, an unfeeling, unreasonable boss. Nevertheless, for centuries, the remedy for extinguishing the old enigmas involving human relationships has been pointed out in the teachings of the Good News. Fraternal charity is the key to all the doors to good understanding. The disciples of the gospel is someone who has been admitted into the presence of the Divine Master in order to serve. And the reward for such a worker cannot be expected in the immediacy of earthly society. How can one put fruit on the green shoot of a newborn tree? How can one bring forth a masterpiece from the block of marble with only the first strike of his chisel? Those who truly love in Jesus' name are sowing to reap a harvest in eternity. Let us not look for other people's guidance concerning issues that are obviously solvable by our own efforts. We know that desperation or cursing does no good. Each spirit has its own pathway to follow. Therefore, in the light of fraternal charity, let us walk the pathway that life has given us, today and always. Attila, I'll ask you to turn off the lights for us.
Sure.
And then you do our prayer. Thank you, sir. All right. So, as we read this book and the importance for us to following Jesus' teachings according to the good news in light of Spiritism, let us raise and connect our thoughts, our emotions, our sentiments to our lovely Father and to Jesus Christ, our Master, and to all our guardian angels and the spiritual team that guide us in this activity Sunday morning and in all this effort of learning Jesus' teachings and the consoling Spiritism here in Calgary through our second house of love, which is FSS. And be grateful. Be grateful for one more Sunday morning where the sun is enlightening us, the sun is shining, and the sun is giving all the energy for us human beings incarnated here on earth to continue our journey of moral evolvement so we can be a little bit better every day. Let's be grateful for this house. Let's be grateful for this moment and be grateful for all the opportunities that God has put in front of us so we can exercise our virtues, we can exercise our discernment, and we can do our part and the work required for us to continue growing. And let's ask that we maintain connected to the divine will, to the divine wisdom, and hopefully we can take a little bit from this knowledge and leave FSS hopefully feeling a little bit better and hopefully reflecting in some of those teachings and what do they mean for each one of us and how can we use a little bit of that in our evolution journey. Let's hope that we have our meeting full of serenity, full of love, and full of happiness. So be it. Hello. It's always good to open my eyes and have more people. Attila, if you wanna, do you know how to stop the music as well? I think if you just hover over the Windows Media, it should be a pause.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So today we're going to talk about being a Spiritist. How do we all feel of following some of the teachings, not following, or at least learning and believing in all the material that has been codified by Kardec to enlighten us from what Jesus had taught us? And how do we feel about saying, yeah, I'm a Spiritist? What does that all mean for all of us? And to guide us in this journey, there is a book called The Book of Hope. It's a book written by Chico Xavier through Emmanuel. And what they do is they take one passage from the Gospel and then they take another passage from the Gospel according to Spiritism. And they did all this mission mash. And there's a lot of good insights. And there's one text there called Being a Spiritist. And I thought that was very interesting. It's like, yeah, let's reflect about this. How do we all feel? And how do we all feel about the relationship that we have established or will be establishing through our journey here in this earth, and how we are taking into consideration all that knowledge in our own lives. So that's the purpose for today. And why do you think, and it's interesting because it's easier a little bit in Portuguese, when the verb, we use the verb to be. In Portuguese, there's two kind of way of using, and I try to, because in Portuguese is ser espírita, and to be a spiritism. That's being a spiritist is the way that I try to translate, because here we could have said, instead of ser or being, we could have said, oh, I nominate myself as a spiritist, or I believe in spiritism. But Emmanuel was very keen in using being, like to be. It's more, how can I say? It's more
not temporary.
It's like it's something that is continuous. It's not permanent. Yes, good, thank you. It's not for 5 months. I'm a spiritist, or a year or 2 years. Why do you think Emmanuel used that tense or that verb to be or being? Why? Why he was so smart and use being or ser espírita or spiritist? Why he chose that? Why didn't he choose something different? Say, I believe, or spiritist is okay, or I nominate myself, or I say I am a spiritist. Why do you think?
I think, as was suggested, there's something permanent about it when you embrace it, you know? It's like existing as a spiritist, maybe in English.
And what makes it permanent?
I think it's learning Spiritism and trying to live Spiritism.
Yes. Yeah. When you're saying to learn, I said, okay, learn is first step. What is the second step is to live. It's how do we take the basic books and, oh my God, how many hundreds, if not thousands of books that have been written, Chico Xavier, Divaldo, and so many other mediums, and how do we take that knowledge and really live and really translate all that knowledge into one's life, into our life? Because, I don't know if you agree with me, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of information about Jesus out there. I think there's no shortage of, thank God, that's the first great step in earth, to be talking about Jesus. But who on earth, including all of us, is going beyond of just talking about Jesus and really embracing his teachings and the way that he reacted to all the challenges that he faced while incarnated here, and who is really trying, at least. I'm not saying that we're all going to be Jesus, or at least at the level of evolution of Jesus in this life, but who is trying to really take that model and applying in ourselves. I would say that's less. It's less than those who are, including ourselves, who are talking about Jesus. And there is this famous passage, which is one of the most consoling passages from the gospel, is when we said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Jesus didn't say, oh, just a moment, Luis, I'm going to you. No, right? It's always come to me, because it was my decision sometimes to step away from Jesus. And just look at it, and I think it's really brilliant saying come to me, because it's really tangible and physical. There is this movement of I am here, Jesus is there, and I have to come to him. So there's action, there's work that I have to do to get to that point. But it's something that I have to do. And how I do that is taking all those learnings, taking so many other role models that have incarnated here, Divaldo, Chico, Madre Teresa, and so many others that can teach us a little bit here and there of all the things that I can do and all of us can do to get into closer to Jesus. Not because Jesus is like, oh, if you're not coming to me, it's like I'm sad. It's for our own purpose. It's for our own consciousness. It's for our own benefit. It's because we need that. If you think about, does God need us to do all the things or to improve ourselves? Actually, not. It's us. We are the ones that are in most need to make the changes, right? And to become better immortal spirits. And how do we recognize, according to the gospel, according to Spiritism? There is a passage there that says, how do we recognize a good Spiritist? Because we're saying being a Spiritist, living, not only knowledge. How do we recognize a good Spiritist?
By their actions.
By their actions? Yeah. There are two words that I think that is very consoling, that puts into context the world that we are living in right now. There's kind of a sentence that Kardec mentions. We recognize a good spirit by the efforts that someone make to control and dominate our bad tendencies. I think that is as simple as it is. Because can we say, oh yeah, I dominated everything. Such a enlightening spirit. I'm just here in a mission. No, right? This world that we're living in, a world of trials and expiations, there's a lot of things going on, right? And at this point, if we can at least be aware and do the efforts, just sometimes when we have our passions or when we have maybe some things that we don't like in ourselves, but we are aware and we try. Sometimes when we try, we fail. Sometimes we are able to do what we want to do, but the importance is we are trying, right? And I like Alirio when he says, it's like you have a dog that's a little bit angry, and sometimes that dog sees someone else, and that dog wants to go and bark and bite. And if you're able to kind of put that dog here and make that dog next to ourselves, so that dog doesn't bite the other person, and including ourselves, that's a good stance. That's a good approach for us to dominate our bad tendencies. And it's okay. Sometimes I think, oh, I don't want to have bad tendencies. I don't have any passions. But we do. And that's okay. That's the mercy, the law of mercy, that God gives us another chance here, and will give many other chances for us to continue our evolution. Because God is in no rush, right? He doesn't need Luis to solve all his issues by the end of this life. I have other opportunities to do that. And even now that I just thought, if I think, just because I'm in business, and if I think God is very strategic, because He gives each one of us some focus areas to do the work in this life. And then we do the job, sometimes we don't, and then we carry over some of those focus areas to other lives. But it's good that we have some focus, and each one of us, we are able to identify, that patience, or that forgiveness, or that relationship that is, I'm struggling, whatever we are, right? And God has given so many mechanisms for us to practice. Work here at the Spiritist Center, dare I say family? So many opportunities for us to practice, and for us to take what we learn and really change some of the ways that we have been doing in the past that were not resulting good things, so we can change. And why not, right? All the opportunities for us in society. Because it's with the work that with each one of us that will make this society better. So if I'm talking about being a Spiritist, in some of my studies I found in the Medium book, Kardec kind of describes 4 types of Spiritists, which is interesting. He says that there is the experimental Spiritist, the imperfect Spiritist, the true Spiritist, or better, Christian Spiritist, and fanatical Spiritists. Who would guess what are those experimental Spiritists? Who are they? What are their characteristics? Does anyone know?
Aren't they the ones that just like accept like there's phenomenon
Yes.
and they just focus on some of these physical
Yes.
expressions, if anything?
Exactly. It's those that are, yeah, I just want to see incorporation. I just want to see that communication. I just want to see how we materialize things from all the world, right? So they don't care about all the teachings and how we are here to be the moral part of it. What about the imperfect ones?
All of us.
There's a little bit of all of us there.
We want to learn, but we still struggle a bit.
Yeah.
Putting.
And Kardec says those one is, yeah, it's all good. But for you, Maria, yeah, good for you. Yeah, you're following that. But me, I don't want to do all that work. And actually, I don't think that work is required. So I won't put any effort to do that, right? It doesn't see the moral side of it, or the religiosity. Is that a word?
Religiosity.
The religiosity of it, of that connection to something higher, to God and Jesus. The true spirits, or better still, the Christian spirits. That's our goal. That's are the ones that are saying, yes, okay, I understand the Spiritism as a philosophy, as a science, and as a connection or a religion, a connection to God. I accept and I understand that we can communicate with those who have passed away. I understand that this earth here is one earth amongst I don't know how many others, right? So I understand those concepts or those fundamental aspects of Spiritism, and I also do the effort to try to live it and try to make that change. One that was very interesting was the fanatical Spiritists. Who would guess? What are those fanatical? And the fanatical part kind of threw me away a little bit before.
Yeah,
how would you guess? How would you describe the fanatical ones?
I think it's like those people, they are Spiritists, but they also want other people to become, so they try to convince them to become Spiritist, I guess. They are like, in an obsessive way, in a bad way, like, there's no balance. It's just like too much.
Yes.
Or my true is my only true. Like what I believe is the only thing that is right and doesn't accept, or is not even open to. Or I wouldn't say open, but is not respecting other people's faith.
Yeah.
It's actually a little bit different than that. There is this fanatism, and they said that the fanaticals, they don't think, right? So what happens, and this is a very important learning for me, those fanatical ones, they take everything as absolute truth. They don't use their discernment, and they believe in every single communication. Every single spirit that comes here, yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true. And they don't use that discernment, which is very important, because we know there are some spirits that are still in ignorance, and they try to trick us, and they try to do some things that are not exactly what we're supposed to do. And those fanatical ones, they are the ones that will take everything, and they cause a lot of damage even to the Spiritism movement, because they might be saying on behalf, let's say, of the Spiritism movement, things that are not true, right? And the importance for me was those ones, and sometimes we can be there, right? We can say, oh yeah, I have some communication, or someone told me this, that's true. And sometimes we become puppets of spirits. Oh, a spirit said this, I will do it. A spirit said that, I will do it. And where is our own free will, discernment to say and evaluate? Well, let's see, this communication here, is that something that will do good? Is that something that is loving, is just, is charitable? This is a very important thing. And that's why one of the reasons that Kardec describes all the levels of evolution of the spirits. We have the 10 scales, 3 orders. So we are aware that we are somewhere in that scale. There are spirits that are more evolved and spirits that are less. For those that are less, if they want, they might be trying, due to their ignorance, to cause damage instead of good. So I thought that was very interesting, because we're talking about Spiritism, and we're talking about being spirits, and how we sometimes navigate into those types of Spiritists that Kardec mentions. So let's go and start using the text, Being a Spiritist from Emmanuel, from the Book of Hope. Look at how interesting he uses here on the top. That's the passage from John that Jesus said, and then from the Gospel. Let's start there from John. He says, I have told you these things so that in me you might have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So, why do you think Kardec would start in using this passage from John, talking about trouble, talking about challenges, talking about trials, in a text about being Spiritist? Why do you think Emmanuel chose that passage about trouble, about I have overcome the world, in a text about being Spiritist?
I think it's because the earth is a place where we learn. It's like a school. So it's I don't know how to say in English, like it's a planet of trials
and expiations. Yes,
right?
exactly.
So that does involve like facing issues, facing troubles, and having to overcome them.
Exactly.
Being tested.
Being tested,
Yeah.
yes.
Tested in a sense of learning, right?
Yeah.
Testing in a sense of not that God is tricky. I'm going to get at you with this incarnation. I'll give him this and let's you. in a way of testing, exactly, because all of us Spiritists, sometimes we might have a sense of privilege. It's like, I'm Spiritist. I read all the books and I'm safe. Because I did that, I'm going to Nosso Lar, or I'm going to somewhere in heaven. No, right? All of us are in this planet to deal with some of our afflictions, some of our vicissitudes. However, God wouldn't be fair and loving if he just gave challenges and no resources or anyone like Jesus to guide us. And so we can look at someone and say, okay, there's hope, right? That's why when he says, I have overcome the world, if Jesus has overcome, he gave us some of his examples so we can also do that, right? We can also have that shine of hope, that shine of light. In some of the darkest hours of our lives, it will be a temporary darkness, but there's always that light. There's always that hope that it's a time being. It's a period that I'm there being tested to learn, but I will overcome that. The destination is to overcome. The destination is not just to fail and live with that failure for the rest of our lives. And then he continues, this is now, so above is the Gospel from John, and now the Gospel according to Spiritism. Go forth and give thanks to God for the glorious task that he has entrusted to you. But bear in mind that among those called to Spiritism may many have gone astray. So watch your course and follow the way of the truth. So now here, this is a message from it's chapter 20th called The Workers of the Last Hour. It's a beautiful passage from Erasto, which is
What is this book?
Gospel According to Spiritism.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, why do we think that some of us, we may take some detours? We may go astray. We came here, we have our contract, lots of fine printing. We didn't notice the fine printing, some of the challenges. And some of us, we say, I'm going to take the other route. Why? Why do we do that?
Because it might be easier.
It might be easier. Why it might be easier?
Because you don't have to put a lot of effort sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. But there's always something that is guiding us for the easier thing, right? What is that is the root cause of us taking an easier route?
Laziness.
Laziness? Yeah. Because sometimes we decided to have the reward of the life here on earth, right? We change the priorities. If the focus is to do things about virtues that each one of us decided or we have to do because we have to learn some of the wrong things that we did in the past or even this life, sometimes we decided just to take care of Luis as the personality, the persona here on earth. I forget about myself as an immortal spirit. I decided to focus on what gives me pleasure. What is that excites me here, right? What we call sometimes I just care about the material human being that Luis is being right now. I don't know if that's right to say. I'm a being, I'm a temporary Luis, right? And sometimes I decided just to focus on the temporary Luis. My goals and my focus is just I need to acquire this, or this is what gives me satisfaction, this is what gives me pleasure, and I forget. I change the priorities instead of doing some things that will carry over throughout the eternity. For Luis, as an immortal spirit, that doesn't matter once I die, once I discarnated, I will carry that over, right? And this can be reflected in everything that we do in our lives. I'm not saying that we should disregard, don't take care of any material things. Don't take care of your body. No, that's not what I meant, right? This body here is an important mechanism for all of us. It's a mercy from God that we are able to incarnate, and we can use the body as a mechanism for our trials. But it serves a purpose. And what else am I doing in order to continue my journey beyond Luis Moura now here in Canada in this incarnation? Right? So sometimes we lose that focus. And what predominates is the material Luis over the spiritual Luis. And it's common. And the important part is if we notice that, how can we take some course of action to change? It's like, oops, my scale or the balance is not the correct one. How can I do something that I can still continue to fulfill the needs of this earth, but also the needs of my spiritual being, right? And this balance, those paradigms, we break kind of every aspects of our lives or times in our lives. Sometimes we are there, the balance is all good. Something comes, it's like, now this is the priority. And I decided to shift that, and I will see some of the consequences of that. Sometimes in this life, sometimes I might get in even other lives. And it's important to remember in Kardec, I won't remember the question number, but our passions. Sometimes our passions get a bad reputation. Say, no passions. Those are all good, all bad, all evil. No, Kardec says the passion is it's a strength, it's an energy that we all have, so that keeps moving us forward. It's the força propulsora, the drive. However, the challenge is what is guiding that driver. And the recommendation from Emmanuel, and even from the Spirit's book, is our will. If we don't have our will connected to God's will, to guide that driver, to guide that passion, they go to whatever direction they feel they like to. But if we have that will, okay, I'm going to use that drive, that energy, that strength to do something good for myself, for my neighbor, and for society, that's okay. However, if I let that passion do whatever that passion wants, then is when we get into some trouble. So the will, a vontade, the will that we have, and Emmanuel says he called the cabinet of the will. It's like a hierarchy where you have your desire, your imagination, and all the good stuff, your memory in our brain, and whoever needs to be the boss at the top, like the CEO of our soul, is our will. If that will is really guiding all the efforts of the workers, that is when we are in the right track. So continue. Spiritist doctrine, the Renaissance of Christianity. So why does he say that? That's the Renaissance of Christianity. Spiritism didn't create anything new. We are not reinventing the wheel or saying that new things from Jesus. What the Spiritism doctrine is saying is, it's not saying, or is helping us to understand some of the words that Jesus wrote, Jesus said, some of the parables, which were all a little bit figuratively, or there were some like signs and symbols. And Spiritism comes here to clear any doubt, to clear any misconception for us. So we cannot say again, yeah, but I misunderstood that. My bad. No, the Spiritism doctrine, not only with the books that Kardec wrote, but with all the other books that have been written, and not only books, but other Spiritists from the movement across the world, can help us navigate and clarify any misconceptions that we might have. Is that Louise that's saying? No. Question 627. There is a question from Kardec. Kardec asks, since Jesus has already taught the true laws of God, what value, as Kardec was very, why are you guys here? Why are you bothering me? What values are the teachings given by the Spiritists? Do they really have anything more to teach us? And the Spirits, just a little bit, they said, Jesus' teachings were frequently allegorical and in the form of parables, because he spoke according to the time. So it's necessary to explain God's law more fully and elaborate on them, because there are so few who understand them and still fewer who actually practice them. So there is no reason for us to have misconceptions of what does that mean for charity? What do we mean by charity? What do we mean by forgiveness? What do we mean by patience? What do we mean by compassion? It's all listed. It's all here, word by word, for us to then incorporate and do the work in ourselves. We cannot say anymore that we are ignorant. And Spiritism, is that a privilege just to the ones of us here? No. It's for across the world. Everyone has the ability to go and check and read, right? And he continues, to be a Spiritist is to constitute oneself as a nucleus of edifying action through each new era begins. So how do you guys feel? Each one of us, we are a nucleus of edifying actions. How do you feel in this world how is it sometimes? How do you feel? Is it possible to do something good? Is it possible to continue doing something edifying?
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
But do we sometimes feel, oh, yeah, next life, or maybe not me? How useful am I in this world that everything seems to go wrong? Everything seems to be out of place. Do we feel sometimes? I feel sometimes I feel like that.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah,
I'm not gonna bother.
I'm not gonna bother, right? It's like, yeah, maybe folks there, maybe in other country, maybe in Airdrie, or maybe in BC, they can do their part. Sometimes we question our own usefulness. But can you imagine if I feel like this, some of us feel like that, and many others? What's the result of that? Nothing gets. This new era will never exist. It's so interesting. It's so simple, but if we think it's like, yeah, but it's just me. I'm sure 8 billion people, they will do their part. But there's lots of others that might be thinking that way. So it is our role to be vigilant. And if we feel like, oh, I'm useless, to correct and say, okay, I am useful. I have my purpose and I can do something. And sometimes, what do you call in English? We want to bite the whole elephant, right? But sometimes we don't need to. Luis doesn't need to change the entire Calgary, or Moura, or Canada. I can start in my own inner circle. 4 people in my household. My wife, myself, and 2 kids. Maybe I expand a tiny bit. My relatives. Maybe I expand to Carol's relative. No, I won't go there. Yeah. No, you see, you can expand. You can keep going, right? We don't need to solve world hunger, but we can do our own part. And if we feel that we have the power or incline, the energy, the resources to help solve world hunger, we can do that. We can play our part, right? And more important, we gotta do our own part in our own selves. Because if we do our part in our own selves, then this is it overflows to the entire society and to all humanity and all society. So here, for me, it's a call. I'm a Spiritist. I have a duty to be aware that I am useful. And I'm a son of God. I have my qualities, I have my talents, and I can do something for this world. And I can do something for myself as well. We all have a role to play. There's no, it's like, Luis will incarnate just because. Yeah, I just put him there. Nothing to do, put him there. No, all of us, we have a mission, something to be done for us and for the entirety society. Otherwise, how are we going to get to this plan of regeneration? There's no other way, right? We have a part to play in that. In today's world, it is said as if the world had been reduced to a house in ruins. The Spiritist is called to the role of the strong foundation, capable of showing that not everything is lost. Again, to reinforce that. In this world, sometimes it's like, yeah, it's all ruined. Maybe it's the end of the world. Nothing to be done. But when we take that stance, what is our energy? What is the type of vibration and energy that we surround ourselves? Not the best ones, right? Defeat, exactly. If we are the ones that know about regeneration, the evolution of worlds, evolution of immortal spirits, if we don't practice that, we're not doing our role. I'm not saying that to scare, it's like, but it's just a responsibility that we all have as the knowledge that we have, a responsibility to console, to be a part of that strong foundation. That if someone else in our family, our neighbor, friends, whomever, co-workers, if they are in that feeling of despair, feeling of abandonment, we might have a role to play to give some words of encouragement, to give some words of consoling.
Yeah.
Here at the Spiritist, at FSS, we do have the fraternal assistance. Some folks might say, not sure what's happening. Can I talk to someone? Yeah, we can do that. We're not therapists, but we can bring what the Spiritism doctrine says and maybe show some light, show some consoling words that can help those that might feel a little bit, there's no reason or there's nothing I can do to overcome whatever challenge that I have. So we have a role, again, to be this strong foundation for ourselves, for the movement, the Spiritist movement, and for the world, and for society.
Yeah. I think one thing that I like to, it's personal, but I think it's important to believe that you have this role, because sometimes I ask myself, what am I doing here? What's my mission here? Like, why am I here? And I still didn't find out, so I need to keep my search, but keep looking. But I think really believe that you have a purpose of being here, right?
Yeah.
And the tiniest thing that you say to someone might change their day.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Not even saying, but even maybe a look,
yeah.
a gesture, or something. Or even if that person doesn't even know, a prayer. So simple as that. Not only to a person, but to a whole civilization, society, or country. Community, exactly. So there are always something that we can do to help with the healing and to help with the transformation of this earth. And just to continue that message that this world will not end. There won't be like a bomb or thing that this earth will just vanish. What is the end? Is the end of the world how it is. It transforming to a better place for all of us. There are those who say that humanity lies in a process of disintegration. The Spiritist is invited to preserve themselves as a healthy self, capable of paving the way for the recovery of the social organism. I think that was a very wise words from Emmanuel to use a healthy cell. in an organism that might be so many sick cells, is that right? Or cells that are not doing well, we are the ones. We can be the ones that are not sick. There are the ones that can help with the regeneration of other cells that might not be doing very well. And again, if we keep in that energy of atmosphere of disintegration, what is that we are contributing to this world, right? Imagine if ourselves are just like bitter or as like sickened or as like, there's no way this is going. We are going even to attract other cells that are not healthy for us. So a call for us to be aware and vigilant. And Artur Valadares, when he describes this text, he says that we're like the world is kind of a big pharmacy, and we are integral parts of our neighbor's pharmacy. So our neighbors might need some remedy or some medicine that we can help. And also, we are each other's neighbor. Attila is my neighbor, and I am neighbor of Attila's as well. And sometimes I'm in need of some of that medication. And so in this exchange of medication, it's how beautiful it is, the organization of the system by God, so we can help each other. So we need to be somewhat aware to be healthy, so we can contribute to my neighbor's pharmacy. So if my neighbors need a little bit of medication, I'm able to provide and to supply some of that to them, right? So all of us can be healthy, and all of us can drive towards a better planet. Spiritists, where destruction arises, becomes a call for reconstruction. Where indiscipline bursts, becomes a support for order. And where pessimism spreads, immediately stands as a message of hope. Again, a very important call of our mental house, our thoughts that we have, right? Emmanuel is I love two parts from Emmanuel. I think one is from the book, The Way, the Way, and the Life, where he says, be aware and be careful with chronic pessimism. That pessimism that you cannot get out of it. Be very much aware, because you won't be able to accomplish anything. Be aware when you're that, and if you find yourself there, reach for resources so we can get out. We can all get out of it, because it's only with positive thoughts, it's only believing, it's only with hope that we will be able to accomplish and build anything. And he's very emphatic, and he doesn't say, maybe you'll be able to do something. He says, no, you won't be able to do anything if you stay in that pessimism. And who of us stay there? You ruminate, right? You go in that cycle and say, and that sense of I'm not useful, and what am I here? And it's hard for us to get out of that. So the call here, as for us and for everybody as a Spiritist, is to bring that message of hope, to bring and as I can't remember who says, is to give our other face, right? If we have a lot of arrogance, we can give our humility. If we live in a world of greediness, we can bring a little bit of simplicity to. The more that I think, it's the more that we need is simplicity. We made things so complicated for our lives and for the world that we need a little bit of simplicity. And if we just think about Jesus, right? Jesus was born with the best example of simplicity. He was born by the side of the road in a what do you call manjedoura? How do you call it in English? It's like I'm gonna call it stable. Yeah. There was no pompous and trumpets. Jesus is born, and then a whole show. No, and it wasn't by chance. It was on purpose, right? That he was born in the most simple way.
And everybody was expecting a military leader. Right?
Yes, exactly.
As a savior.
Yeah, and he was born in that simple way. So how can we bring that simplicity to our own life and the things that we do, the things that we try to accomplish, the focus that we decided to give in our own lives? And towards the end, the Spiritist teachings is Christ's word that reaches us without shouting. And the Spiritist work, since the foundation basis of Allan Kardec, is the construction of the gospel, lifting beings without demeaning anyone. So again, there's no call here and say that we go and gospel. There's no salvation without charity. There's no call for us to start convincing, to start demanding others to believe and read and follow Spiritism, right? And all that work is done internally. And that for me personally, as a worker here at FSS, I always try to keep myself grounded on that, because there were some times that I was like, oh my God, what can we do? We need to have 50 people attending FSS. No, 50 is not enough. We need 70. We need to get to 100. We need more people. We need more people. We need more times, more slots, more service. It's like, Luis, just calm down. Calm your anxiety. Because even Jesus, the church is there. We're not crowded, right? And the gospel, it's not for the multidões. Oh my God, my English is not for all the crowd. It's for each one of us. And as we do the work in each one of us, that starts translating, and that starts with others. So even for me as a worker here, it's always a call when I'm getting too anxious of, oh my God, are we doing the right thing? We're not getting enough members. We're not getting this or that. Hold on. If I'm able, with a talk, and any one of us are able to help, maybe with a consoling word for one, look at the impact of that one can have in another one, and in another one, and in the family and friends. So that's all about it. And again, the Spiritism asks anything from us. This Kardec says, you gotta follow the 10 steps for happiness, or the 5 tricks for happiness before die, or there's no recipe, right? It's just their knowledge, and we decide what to do. It's up to us. But at the same time, Spiritism expects a lot for us to do the work. And maybe I would go beyond. It's not Spiritism that expects, it's our own expectations for us to do the work and use this incarnation to the best, to the fullest potential as possible, right?
Yeah.
Knowing all the things that we know now and removing all barriers, being parables, words, figures, whatever, we have the answer there. And it's up to us to make the effort. And each one of us will have a certain strength. I can do X, Attila can do X, Y, and Z, Flavia can do A, B, C, D, and there's no competition here. Who gets as a perfect spirit faster? There's no rush in that. And every one of us have our own pace. And to end, the text ends. Work serving, aware that each of us is the agent of our own promotion. We don't need marketing. We don't need like the influencer, Instagrammer or something saying, yeah, this is what I did, evolved, I did this. No, our own actions will speak for itself. In the work of human redemption, which does not arise from violence, but from truth and love, in the fraternal touch from spirit to spirit. In view of this, if you can accomplish much for the benefit of others based on what you know, you will only succeed in renewing others through who you are. It's who we are, the actions that we have, the same way that Jesus, the way that he was, and the challenge that he faced. Because, man, that guy had a lot of patience. And he gave us all the recipes, all the things. Maybe it wasn't very clear at that time, but now we have that clarity. And we don't need to touch all the crowds. If we are able to do the transformation ourselves, and then we can replicate to our inner circle, our own system and our environment, and be aware of balancing. What is the focus for Luis as a material human being, and what is Luis as an immortal spirit? And us being that nucleus, being that core, that healthy cell. Of course, are we always going to be there? No. Of course, that sometimes we'll get sick. Sometimes we get into despair. But remember, be vigilant. If we get there, get out. Get there and get out. And the more that we do, the more even the law of mercy thinks that we're capable. Because if I were able to get out of situation X, was kind of a level medium, then God said, yeah, like Luis learned. Now I can give maybe Luis, or Luis is prepared for a medium hard experience. And as I gain more experience and knowledge, and it's the law of progress. It's the law of work. The more that we learn, the more that we're prepared, and the more strength that we have, we're better prepared to continue with a little bit more difficult challenges. And we have all this potential inside of us to transform the society, to have the Christian values and the Christian principles that Jesus represented when he incarnated here. That's for me the text of being spirits. That gives a little bit of more awareness and a little bit of more clarity of some of the responsibilities. Not only for a spiritist, but as a human being. How do we behave in this world that's a little bit challenging, but challenging for a purpose? It needs to be challenging now, so we can do the work and transform into a better place. Does that resonate? Does that?
Of course,
yes.
Thank you.
Cool.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it requires a lot of work and requires a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures, but a lot of successes as well.
For sure.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. But we gotta try. I like what Rosandro says one day, that in all parables that Jesus gave, there was no actor that Jesus rewarded being kind of neutral. Like, yeah, good that you did nothing. Always the actors or the figures that he used always welcome. Yeah, you did something that was not right, so let's now correct. Right? In all parables, there was no punishments like, oh, bad, you shouldn't be done that. Pointing fingers. Although when there was like the parable of talents, where there were that a servant was neutral, he said, yeah, that's not exactly what we are expecting. You had to do something, right? So the neutrality is sometimes, and we talk about that in some of the talks. It's something always in my mind as well, because it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes, yeah, I'm just going to sit here. I'll let the 8 billion people on Earth do their part. But we have a role to play and do our own part. Yeah.
It's an invitation.
It's an invitation, exactly. Can we not accept? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all can. It's up to us. It's up to us.
I think sometimes I'm very fearful of like making mistake, for example, but it's better to try and make a mistake than standing still.
Yes.
And doing nothing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And the mistakes are part of the learning.
Yeah.
I think mistakes get a bad rap, right? You always need to get perfect. You always need to get it right, but it's not like this.
Yeah.
If you're here to learn, if you're students, there's no point for us to be students if we knew everything already. If you knew everything already, we would need to reincarnate.
Yeah.
Because we had reached an evolution already, and we might reincarnate just as a mission to help the world, but we're not there yet. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Even in educational theory, they noticed that it's the students that are most willing to constantly mess up that end up achieving the most, like outperforming all the other students that might have been doing better to begin with, but also improve the fastest throughout the process.
Yeah.
And rather than it necessarily being the mistake, they said it was the openness to try.
Yes. Yeah.
That made all the difference.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's true.
If it can work for 6-year-olds, maybe it can work for 60-year-olds.
Absolutely. Good. So before I forget, I'll give another round of announcements that we have more people here. So save the date, August 10th, we have our FSS barbecue. It's always great. I really enjoy it. This year will be, we have always done at Glenmore Park, but this year we're going to be at the Shriners. Is that right?
August 10th or 24th?
August 10th.
Oh,
We changed. Yeah, I talked to
I
Manuel.
wasn't aware.
Yeah, it was to be 24. Now it's going to,
Yes.
because there was no availability on the 24th.
Okay.
So August 10th is a Saturday. It's the only event that we do on a Saturday. It's beautiful there. My God, it's like lake. It's at Wellness Park. It's beautiful. So I encourage everyone to save the date and join us. And August 28th is when we're going to have Alírio, who is a lecturer from Mato Grosso, from the Federação Espírita do Mato Grosso. He's going to do a Canadian tour, and he will be here Wednesday night. Usually we start 7:30 with a topic that we'll have a conversation on. Yeah. Awesome. Let's do a final prayer. You want to turn the music, and then we go for passes. All right. So, connected as we are to our lovely Father and Jesus Christ, our Master, to our guardian angels, and the entire spirituality and the spiritual team of FSS, let's be grateful for one more opportunity that we had to learn about what is it to be a Spiritist. What is it, the relationship that we have established and we will continue evolving, establishing as following the Spiritism knowledge, and most importantly, applying that, living that knowledge in ourselves. Be grateful for this second home of love, to continue, for this house continue sending energy and being this point of light with consoling energy, consoling messages for us and for all our neighbors and for all our city here in Calgary. Let's ask that we have a blessing rest of Sunday and a blessed week full of opportunities for us to practice of being that strong foundation for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, and to be the healthy cell for all the world, and continue in our journey to help this planet to become a better place. And ask that we have a week full of love, full of patience, full of serenity and charity. So be it.